Your morning is making you weak. Not because you're lazy, but because you're undisciplined. You wake up and immediately surrender. First to your phone, then to distraction, then to the demands of everyone but yourself. Before your feet even hit the ground, your mind has already been hijacked, and you wonder why you're unfocused, unmotivated, and always playing catch-up. This is not a time management issue. It's a mindset failure. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius didn't reach for approval when he woke up. He reached for command. He wrote, "You don't love yourself. If you did, you'd love your time. And if you loved your time, you wouldn't waste it." That's what most people don't get. The day doesn't start when your alarm goes off. It starts the moment you decide who's in control, you or the chaos. The Stoic morning routine is not about productivity tricks or wellness rituals. It's a system of self-discipline designed to rewire your drive, sharpen your attention, and anchor your actions in reason. No fluff, no dopamine, just structure, clarity, and action. In this video, you're going to learn the 5 steps that reset your mind before the world can corrupt it. These are the practices that separate the distracted from the focused, the reactive from the deliberate, the average from the unshakable. If you're ready to stop drifting and start directing your life, subscribe to Victory Stoic, like this video, share it with someone who needs to stop waking up weak, and comment, "I start the day." The day doesn't start me, because if you don't dominate your morning, you've already lost the day. Let's begin. Number 1. Wake up early. Control the beginning. Control your life. Most people think waking up early is a productivity hack, but for the Stoic, it's far more than that. It's a declaration of control, a quiet rebellion against passivity. When you wake up early, not because you have to, but because you choose to, you're sending a message to your own mind. I run this system, nothing else. Marcus Aurelius said it simply. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I was made to do the work of a human being. But in the same passage, he added something even more cutting, that few quote, "Why am I doing what I was born to do reluctantly? Is this what I was created for? To lie under warm blankets?" That's not motivational fluff. That's a cold interrogation from one of the most powerful men in history, aimed at himself. If an emperor had to battle the pull of the sheets, so do you. And if he refused to lose, so should you. Waking up early isn't just about having more time. It's about reclaiming your inner authority before the noise of the world tries to drown it. Because the moment your phone starts buzzing, the demands roll in, and your mind switches to reaction mode, you've already given the day away. Let's break this down from both Stoic reasoning and science. From a Stoic view, the early morning is when the mind is most clear, before distraction, before emotion, before ego kicks in. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Waking early is your first battle. Win it, and the rest of the day falls in line. Lose it, and you start from a place of weakness, negotiating with your own impulses, surrendering before the fight begins. Now, what does the science say? A 2020 study published in Nature Communications that tracked over 400,000 people found that early risers reported significantly better mental health and well-being than night owls. They had lower risk of depression, anxiety, and even metabolic disorders. Another study from the Journal of Psychiatric Research found that morning, people not only had better moods, but showed higher levels of cognitive performance and emotional regulation throughout the day. Why does this happen? Because the brain functions differently in the early hours. Cortisol, the hormone that helps you stay alert and manage stress, naturally peaks between 6 and 8 a.m. Your body is biologically designed to operate at its sharpest in the morning, if you're awake to use it. But most people sleep through their own prime. They snooze through their strength. And there's more. When you wake up early, especially before sunrise, you reclaim solitude, something the Stoics considered sacred. Seneca said, "We must withdraw into ourselves, for it is in the inner man that truth dwells." The early morning is the one time of day when the world is quiet enough to let you think, reflect, and decide who you want to be, before the outside world tells you. Take John, for example, a 35-year-old project manager in Seattle. For years, he woke up at 7:45 a.m., rushed to get dressed, grabbed a coffee, and started work already tense. He was always behind, always stressed, always tired. After stumbling onto Marcus Aurelius quotes on YouTube, something clicked. He decided to try waking at 5:30. No phone, just silence. In the first 2 weeks, he journaled, worked out for 20 minutes, and planned 3 key tasks for the day before anyone had emailed him. 6 months later, his anxiety was down, his physical energy was up, and for the first time in a decade, he said, "I don't feel like I'm being chased by my own life." This isn't magic, it's mechanics. Wake up early, and you finally have space to lead instead of follow. You stop waking up into stress and start waking up into strategy. You're no longer a slave to your inbox, your calendar, or the people who demand your time. You've already given that time to yourself. Now, let's address the excuses. "I'm not a morning person." That's not a trait, it's a habit. No child is born hitting the snooze button. That's learned behavior, and anything learned can be unlearned. "I need more sleep." Good. Go to bed earlier. You don't need 10 hours of Netflix or doom scrolling. You need 7 hours of real sleep and 1 hour of real clarity. The kind that only comes when the world is quiet and you're finally able to hear yourself think. You might also think, "But I do my best work at night." Maybe. But ask yourself this: are you doing your best deep work at 11:30 p.m., or are you just catching up because you wasted the day? There's a difference between preference and conditioning. Waking up early isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the disciplined version of yourself, the one who shows up before they're told to. Stoicism is a philosophy of action, not theory. You don't get stronger by thinking about waking up early. You get stronger by getting out of bed when your mind tells you not to. Every time you do that, you're not just building a routine. You're building a mind that doesn't fold under resistance. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off and your comfort whispers stay, ask yourself, was I made to lie here, or was I made to rise? If you answer honestly, you'll already know what to do. Get up, start the fight, and take the day before it takes you. Number 2, practice a few minutes of silence. Confront yourself before the world does. Most people wake up and immediately run, not physically, but mentally. Their first instinct is to check their phone, review tasks, stress about the day, or start negotiating with the snooze button. From the very first moment of consciousness, the mind is already in motion, but not in control. It's reacting, not choosing. And this is where the Stoics were different. They didn't begin their day by looking outward. They began by looking inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "People look for retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, or in the mountains. You too are inclined to desire such things. But all this is unphilosophical, when it is possible for you to retreat into yourself, whenever you choose." This idea, to retreat into yourself before facing the noise of the world, is the foundation of Stoic mental clarity. Not meditation as escape, but presence as armor. When you wake and sit in silence, even for 2 or 3 minutes, you are doing something few people in the modern world ever do. You are letting your mind settle before it starts operating. You are resisting the pull to plan, perform, and panic. You're not reviewing your schedule, scrolling through updates, or building the mental battlefield of the day. You are simply present. No judgment, no distraction, no performance. Why does this matter? Because stillness is the foundation of self-command. In silence, you begin to observe your mind, and in observation, you find separation. You realize, I am not my thoughts. I am the one watching them. That gap is everything. That gap is where choice begins. Let's ground this in science. A study published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that even short daily practices of silence or mindfulness significantly reduce reactivity in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fight or flight responses. This means your ability to remain calm under pressure is directly tied to your ability to practice stillness. Another study by Harvard researchers found that quiet introspection increases activity in the default mode network of the brain, which is associated with reflection, memory, and creativity. In simple terms, your brain works better when you start the day in silence. But let's be clear. This isn't about sitting like a monk in lotus position. You don't need incense. You don't need a mantra. You don't need to empty your mind. You just need to shut up, stay still, and listen to what's already inside you. Imagine Thomas, a 42-year-old firefighter from New Jersey. For years, his mornings were chaos. Alarms blaring, kids yelling, coffee spilling, calendar notifications firing. He lived in reaction mode. Then a friend introduced him to Stoicism. The next day, he woke up 20 minutes earlier, sat on his porch with nothing but a cup of water, and just sat there. At first, it felt strange. He kept reaching for his phone. But by the third day, he started to hear something he hadn't heard in years. His own thoughts without noise. By the second week, he described it as meeting myself again before the world does. That moment of stillness became the anchor of his entire day. Or consider Rachel, a software developer in San Diego, who struggled with anxiety and overthinking. Her mornings were a blur of to-do lists and stress. Inspired by Marcus Aurelius, she began her day by sitting on the floor next to her bed for 3 minutes. No music, no phone, eyes open, breathing slowly. At first, it didn't feel productive, but over time, she noticed her anxiety shifted. She wasn't less busy, but she was less frantic. She was finally responding instead of reacting. Stoicism doesn't demand that you silence the world. It demands that you train yourself to be still in the middle of it. That training starts first thing in the morning, and it doesn't take an hour. 2 to 5 minutes of silence, fully intentional, fully present, can reset your nervous system, ground your focus, and reconnect you to your values before the world pulls you in 50 directions. Some days thoughts will race. Let them. Watch them like clouds. Don't chase them. Don't fight them. Just notice. Other days, your mind will be dull or anxious. That's fine too. The point is not to achieve mental perfection. The point is to show up and observe, because observation is the first step to command. Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and wastes today." When you sit in silence, you interrupt the addiction to what's next. You anchor yourself in what is, and what is real is this. The only moment you can ever live, act, or change is the one you're in right now. So what does this actually look like in practice? You wake up. You sit up in bed or on the floor. You close your eyes or leave them open. You breathe, not to control anything, but to remember that you're alive. You don't solve problems. You don't plan your day. You simply ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What is the state of my mind? Am I about to live today with intention or fall back into reaction? This is where Stoic discipline begins, not with heroic action, not with perfect execution, but with silent confrontation, a meeting with yourself before you meet anyone else. In a world of noise, silence is a weapon. In a world of speed, stillness is an edge. You want to be unshakable? Then stop letting the first voice you hear each day be someone else's. Stop jumping into life before you've grounded your own mind. Tomorrow morning, before the coffee, before the chaos, before the rush, sit, breathe, listen. Not to a podcast, not to the news, to you. That voice you've buried under years of reaction is still there. It's quiet, but it's clear. And it will tell you exactly who you are, if you're willing to sit still long enough to hear it. Number 3, remind yourself why you exist. Purpose, mission, direction. The most dangerous state of mind is not anger, not sadness. It's drifting, waking up each day without knowing why, going through routines without remembering what they're for, working, eating, scrolling, existing, not living. The Stoics didn't believe in drifting. They believed in aim, clear, unshakable direction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." What are you aiming at when you wake up? If you can't answer that in one sentence, you're already vulnerable. Vulnerable to distraction, to pressure, to manipulation. Because if you don't have your own direction, someone else will gladly give you theirs. And it might not be in your best interest. That's why part of your Stoic morning must include this. Remind yourself why you exist. Not in some abstract spiritual way, but in a real, grounded, personal sense. Who do you wake up for? What are you building? What version of yourself are you committed to becoming, no matter how slow the process? Without that, no amount of cold showers, to-do lists, or dopamine hacks will save you from mental drift. Let's make this real. Picture Mike, a 39-year-old mechanic in Detroit. Life had worn him down. Divorced, working overtime, bills piling up. He wasn't failing, but he wasn't fully living either. Every day felt like maintenance. Until one morning, staring into his bathroom mirror, he thought about his son, Nate, 7 years old, full of questions, always watching. And it hit him. He wasn't just fixing cars. He was showing his son what a man does when life gets heavy. That realization didn't change his circumstances overnight, but it changed his posture. He stood up straighter. He started journaling. He woke up 30 minutes earlier, not for productivity, but for purpose. His purpose wasn't flashy, it was real, and that made it powerful. This is the shift. When you connect your daily actions to a long-term mission, even small things become meaningful. You're not just going to the gym, you're building the health needed to walk your daughter down the aisle one day. You're not just answering emails, you're developing the discipline to lead others by example. You're not just waking up early, you're becoming the kind of person your family can lean on, admire, and remember. Modern science supports this deeply Stoic idea. A 2014 study in the journal Psychological Science found that people with a clear sense of purpose in life not only live longer, but report significantly higher levels of psychological well-being. Another study from the University of Michigan showed that people who reflect daily on their long-term goals are more resilient in the face of stress and setbacks. In other words, knowing why you do what you do actually strengthens your mind and body. Now let's bring this closer. Imagine Sarah, a single mom in Phoenix, raising 2 kids while working full-time and taking night classes. She has every reason to be exhausted, every excuse to say, "I'll just survive today." But each morning she lights a candle at her kitchen table, takes a breath, and says one sentence out loud: "I show up for my children, and I lead by example." That's it, her mantra, her anchor. And when the day gets hard, and it does, she comes back to that sentence. It doesn't give her superpowers, it gives her direction. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about organizing your soul around what matters most. And when you remember why you exist, when you say it out loud, write it down, feel it in your chest, you are no longer drifting, you are aiming. And the person who knows what they're aiming at can endure almost anything. This moment of reconnection, first thing in the morning, is what keeps your routine from becoming mechanical. It reminds you that the grind is not the enemy, it's the proof of devotion. The repetition, the discomfort, the slow progress, all of it becomes noble when it's connected to something greater than ego or convenience. Seneca said, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." Purpose is your port, and you don't need a dramatic life mission to live with purpose. It could be, "I want to become someone my daughter is proud of," or "I want to protect my family from the instability I grew up with," or even, "I want to honor the man I once promised myself I'd become." That is enough, more than enough. And yes, there is happiness in this. Not the shallow happiness of temporary pleasure, but the deep, steady kind. The kind that comes from alignment. When your actions match your values, when your daily habits reflect your long-term mission, you feel a quiet pride that no one can take from you. You walk with more weight in your step, more calm in your eyes. You become harder to shake because you know exactly what you stand for. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take 60 seconds, one breath, and ask yourself, why am I here? Not in a cosmic way, but in a practical, personal way. If the answer doesn't come easily, write it, speak it, refine it. And when you find the sentence that makes your chest tighten and your back straighten, that's the one. That's your reason. And when the world tries to distract you, discourage you, or drain you, go back to that sentence. You exist for a reason. Live like it. Number 4. Move your body for 10 to 15 minutes, because a sharp mind can't live in a sluggish body. You can read every book on Stoicism. You can quote Marcus Aurelius by heart. You can journal, reflect, meditate. But if your body is stiff, tired, bloated, or in pain, your mind will be hostage to it. This is a truth the Stoics understood long before modern science caught up. The body is not separate from the mind. It is its environment. And if your physical state is stagnant, your mental clarity, willpower, and resilience will be dragged down with it. Stoicism is not a philosophy of the mind alone. It's a philosophy of total mastery. The Stoic doesn't aim to simply think clearly. They aim to live clearly. And that starts with physical motion. Not a 2-hour gym grind. Not punishing workouts fueled by insecurity. Just 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate, intentional movement. First thing in the morning. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about cardio or reps, but he understood the connection between physical action and mental strength. In Meditations, he said, "No carelessness in your actions, no confusion in your words, no imprecision in your thoughts." The mind can only operate precisely when the body is not a burden. and modern research now reinforces this ancient insight. A 2021 meta-analysis in Nature Reviews Neuroscience confirmed that light morning movement, such as walking, stretching, or even controlled breathing, has a measurable effect on cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and stress response. It literally activates areas of the brain related to focus and decision-making. Another study from the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry found that 15 minutes of light physical activity each morning reduced symptoms of anxiety and improved clarity throughout the day, especially in high-pressure environments. But this doesn't mean you have to do burpees at 6 a.m. The Stoic approach is not about performance. It's about readiness. You don't move to burn calories. You move to wake the system, to get blood to the brain, oxygen to your cells, and energy into your posture. Let's take some real-life context. Picture David, a 46-year-old software engineer in Boston. His mornings used to begin in silence and stress, slouched at his kitchen table, scrolling emails, chugging caffeine to get going. He never worked out, claiming he didn't have time. But what he really lacked was intention. Then, after reading a passage from Epictetus, how long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself? He decided to change. He didn't join a gym. He didn't buy gear. He just started walking. 15 minutes around his block, rain or shine. No headphones, no podcasts, just breathing, posture, presence. Within 2 weeks, he noticed something shift. He wasn't starting the day in defense mode anymore. He felt alert, steady, present. That walk became his reset, his foundation. Or consider Layla, a single mother in Atlanta, juggling 2 jobs and raising a daughter. She doesn't have time for fancy routines, but she does have 5 minutes. So every morning, while her coffee brews, she stretches on her living room floor. Arms, shoulders, hips, spine. Slow, focused movement. Some days it's just breath work. 5 deep inhales, 5 full exhales. It might seem small, but to her, it's sacred. It's 5 minutes where I'm not a mom, or an employee, or a problem solver, she says. I'm just a body, reconnecting with itself before the day starts. This is the Stoic approach. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not measuring progress on a scale. You're preparing the vessel through which your thoughts, emotions, and actions will move all day. If that vessel is stiff, tired, or tense, you will carry that into every conversation, every decision, every problem. But if it's awake, open, grounded, you will move with clarity, strength, and calm. Seneca warned against the mistake of valuing the mind while neglecting the body. In one of his letters, he wrote, "The body must be trained, not for display, but for endurance." That's the Stoic model. You don't train to look good. You train to be hard to break. And that begins with light, consistent motion every single morning. Here's what that might look like. A 10-minute walk outside without your phone. 3 rounds of slow, deep breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. 5 minutes of stretching, spine, hips, shoulders, neck. A simple mobility flow, cat-cow, child's pose, downward dog. Or just standing tall, breathing, rolling your shoulders, shaking the tension out of your limbs. The goal isn't to push your limits, it's to set your baseline. You're sending a message. I am awake. I am present. I am in control of this body. And this body is ready to serve the mission of my mind. And yes, this creates happiness, but not the fleeting kind. This is not pleasure. It's power. It's the deep biological satisfaction that comes from knowing I have moved with intention. I have honored the body that carries my ambition. I have treated my morning as something sacred, not rushed, not wasted, but claimed. The world will demand a lot from you today. Your boss, your inbox, your children, your bills, the unexpected. And the weak man meets that chaos with anxiety. The strong man meets it with readiness. The Stoic meets it already moving. So tomorrow, before you check anything, before you scroll, before you pour caffeine into fatigue, move. Not as punishment, but as preparation. You don't need a plan, just a decision. Get out of bed, breathe deep, move your limbs, wake up from the inside out. Because a sharp mind cannot live in a sluggish body. And if you plan to lead yourself, your family, your mission, you can't afford to start the day asleep. Move with purpose. Then go do the work of a human being. Number 5, practice gratitude. Reset your mind before the world pollutes it. Gratitude isn't fluff. It isn't a feel-good trick or a positive vibes-only slogan. For the Stoic, it's mental armor, a sharp-edged practice that reorients your mind from lack to strength, from reaction to responsibility. It's how you stop the day from owning you and start owning the day. Seneca said it best, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." And not because it makes you soft, but because it makes you unshakable. When you begin your morning with gratitude, you're not ignoring what's hard. You're choosing to see what still matters. You're reminding yourself, I already have more than I deserve. I already have something to protect. That mindset changes how you walk into stress, pressure, insult, rejection. Modern science backs this ancient wisdom. A landmark study by Dr. Robert Emmons at the University of California found that daily gratitude journaling significantly improves mood, sleep, immune response, and resilience to setbacks. In simple terms, people who consistently practice gratitude become harder to break. Why? Because they train their minds to see value where others see problems. They respond instead of react. They build from what's there, instead of fixating on what's missing. What does this look like in a Stoic morning? It's simple. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Not generic answers like family or health, but specific, grounded, personal moments. A hot shower after a cold night. The fact that your child smiled at you yesterday. The chance to fight again today. The clean slate of a morning where you get to lead, not follow. This isn't about feeling emotional. It's about anchoring your attention in what is already working, so that the first mental fuel you run on isn't stress, comparison, or urgency, but strength. Take Jason, a 34-year-old paramedic in Minneapolis. Every morning before checking his shift schedule or facing potential trauma, he writes down 3 moments from the past day that he's thankful for. Not to stay positive, but to stay grounded. If I don't do that, he says, I get swallowed by the chaos. Gratitude keeps me from losing the bigger picture. It doesn't take him more than 5 minutes, but it completely alters his state. It builds the mental distance he needs to face intensity without becoming reactive. Or consider Naomi, a 50-year-old high school principal in Dallas. She wakes up at 5:45, walks to her kitchen window with a pen and paper, and writes down what she calls solid ground. 3 things she can stand on when the day tries to knock her off balance. One morning, it was, my daughter hugged me without asking. I slept without waking up. I still get to lead. That's not toxic positivity. That's Stoic awareness. A clear mind scanning the battlefield before the war starts and saying, I'm not empty, I'm armed. Gratitude is not weakness. It's not pretending things are fine. It's recognizing the truth. Even in difficulty, you are not starting from zero. You have something, and from that something, you can build. Even if all you can write is, "I have today, I have breath, I have a chance," that's enough. Seneca reminded us, he is most powerful who has power over himself. And nothing restores self-command faster than remembering what is already under your care. Want to take it further? Add one question to your gratitude habit. Who am I fighting for today? Gratitude becomes real when it connects to purpose. If you're thankful for your health, use it to show up for your family. If you're thankful for your freedom, don't waste it in passivity. Turn gratitude into fuel, into responsibility, into reason. Because a Stoic doesn't just feel thankful, they act from it. So tomorrow morning, before you scroll, before you rush, before you let the world pour noise into your system, grab a notebook or just your thoughts and write. What am I grateful for right now? Before anything touches me? Be honest, be specific, don't fake it. If all you have is breath and the courage to face another day, that's enough. Because if you start from strength, you move with strength. And that's the point of this practice. Not to feel good, but to fight smart. Gratitude is the reset button your brain needs. Hit it every morning. Then go face the world like someone who remembers what's worth protecting. Closing. And that's why your morning needs this. Not more noise, but clarity. Not endless to-dos, but one sharp routine that builds presence, strength, and self-command. Practicing gratitude each morning doesn't just shift your mood. It reclaims your perspective before the world pollutes it. When you begin the day rooted in what you already have, everything else becomes a choice, not a reaction. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Be specific, be honest, feel the shift. Then step into your day, not like someone who's chasing control, but like someone who already owns it. If this video helped you refocus, subscribe to Victory Stoic. Like the video. Share it with someone who wakes up in a fog and needs to start waking up with fire. And in the comments, declare your posture. I begin with gratitude. I move with purpose. Thank you for watching. Stay steady, stay disciplined, and remember, your morning doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours.